Greetings, Legionnaires, and welcome to the Wrestling Legion Weekly Podcast. I am Nick the Geek. I'm joined today by two fantastic friends, two brilliant brains, two marvellous minds. I'm joined, of course, by the Redeemer himself, Andy. Andy, how are you doing?
All good, my friend, all good. It was an absolute emotional mess on Friday.
And we are joined by the Joey Styles to my Tony Schiavone. We are joined by Sai. Sai, how the hell are you doing, mate? All things considered.
Yeah, mate. I'm here. I'm enjoying wrestling, ready to talk about it. But before we start, if I can just take a minute.
Of course you can.
So, those of you that watch regularly might think I'm acting a little bit differently today. If you've seen on Twitter or Facebook, I lost my dad this week, and I just wanted to take a minute to say how it was my dad. There he is. That first got me into wrestling when I was 3 or 4 years old, going back to about 1980, and I used to sit up with him and watch the boxing. And then on Saturday afternoons, I'd see a ring and I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, there's a ring," you know. And we'd watch the wrestling. And I didn't really know it was different because the rings kind of looked the same when you're a kid. And if he hadn't have let me stop up and watch the boxing, which was really just him watching the boxing, you know, and keeping me busy, I've never been a wrestling fan, which is why we're all kind of here today. All the trips we've had, all the shows we've been to, none of that would have happened without this guy right here. It's, I don't know what else to say, but I love you, Dad, and I hope you're watching the show tonight.
Thank you, CP Monk. Oh, we lost you for a second then. All right, but unfortunately, the world keeps turning, and we must keep turning with it. So, on with the show, boys. Now, there's another man who got emotional this week for a completely different reason. And he is sat... Hello, Russell. And he is sat to my... this direction, which I can never get right on TV, but I've got it right today. Right. On Friday, we saw the return of arguably one of the greatest of all time. A man who is responsible for a large part of all three of our fandoms. A man who is still, after all this time, the people's champion. We saw the return of The Rock. Andy, I've got one question for you, mate, because the dream is still alive. Is he going to be at 40, my friend?
Yes. Yes, he is. 110%. Do you know what? You know, for a fact, guys, I've known you now, what, 3 years? About 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know I have bumped on about this since the first day I ever met you.
This is true. It's never ending.
Yeah, I gambled on the fact that he was going to be at Mania 39, which, if any of you have seen the Pat McAfee show, I was pretty much right. Stupid McMahon didn't get it done. I don't know whether you've seen it. I'll try and find the quote in a minute. And then, so I didn't go to things, so I was nervous at the fact that he never appeared at 38, because it was like, okay, I've put all my baskets in 39. Then I've decided to go for 40. I'll be honest, as I've said there, my reasons probably for 40 are a bit different. Obviously, I've got some health complications at the moment. Could be my last ever one that I can travel to. So it was probably a bit different. But in the back of my mind, I still had that tiny hope that if it is going to be my last trip, it'll be the trip of a lifetime, and he may be there. And now I'm kind of just like, he is going to be there, and it's going to happen.
All right, from a very biased point of view to a slightly more unbiased point of view. Sai, sorry to hear the news, mate. Thought as you were all with us and your family.
Thanks, Russ.
But Sai, you are just as big a fan as The Rock as I am. Is he going to be there? What do you think he's going to do?
In the past, we've, like Andy's just said, you know, I think maybe 3 years in a row, I've built up my hopes, only to have them shattered. And I swore to myself, didn't I, to you guys?
Yes, you did.
After Mania this year, I said, I'm not doing it next year. I'm not going to get myself all excited just to get myself disappointed again. But the past few years, we haven't had the kind of stuff that's happened this week. You know, all the time we thought The Rock was going to be at the Survivor Series when they used the egg from his Netflix movie, Red, whatever it was. And we were disappointed he wasn't there. The times they could have brought him back for Mania and he wasn't there. But there's an Actors Guild strike. He's not got a lot else to do. He's been talking about it on shows. He appeared on SmackDown. I sat and watched it. I had no idea he was going to be there. It was amazing. I think after doing some of the things they've done this week, there's no way he's not going to be there this year. We are getting Rock Roman, and it's going to be the match of the generation.
Well, lads, I don't know if you've watched Pat McAfee's interview. Do either of you watch it?
Yes, can I quote?
Yes.
Can I quote? I've got it lined up here.
Be my guest, Andy. Be my guest,
as my
Andy.
missus says, I was like a little giggling schoolgirl on Saturday morning. I actually, for the first time in a while, I'm going to tell you this, right? I normally watch SmackDown in the afternoon, but I do see some of the results, but I'll still watch it anyway. For some reason, I was having a bit of pain, couldn't sleep, and I was up at about 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I decided to put SmackDown on, and as you can imagine, when that happened, not only...
Did you wake your whole house up, Andy?
I woke the whole house up, and then also me missus wasn't too happy, and she went outside for a ciggy, and then come back in and said, "Look, you even woke Sam and them up next door." So yeah, I can imagine I absolutely just lost it. But so Rocky made it clear that he didn't want to simply show up and have a match. He wanted to do something unprecedented in the latest WWE comeback. We can have a match, but bigger thought was, what can we do for the fans of the business that we love, where WrestleMania isn't the end of something, it's actually the beginning of something bigger. Hollywood Superstar would then add, unfortunately, couldn't actually nail what was the thing was, so everyone involved decided to leave that potential showdown for another time. This led to the People's Champion explaining that a battle in Philadelphia at WrestleMania 40 was something he's open to if they can figure out an idea that can give the fans something unprecedented and help the boys and girls in the locker room going forward. Simply put, it sounds like next year's WrestleMania could be a potentially electrifying one. Oh. Right, so also I'm just going to give you something else, boys, because I've been thinking about this all day, and as you know, I'm a little nerd, and I like to look at these little bits and bobs that I do as well. So one thing is, The Rock coming back, obviously, for us fans is massive. But with Endeavour just coming in, they've got to get some money back from what they've done with the merger, etc. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So across all WWE socials, from clips uploaded by them, The Rock's return last night on SmackDown is being viewed an estimated 93,600,000 times in just under 24 hours.
That right there is an insane number. Right, as three people who've worked on the internet for about 6 years now, we know how difficult it is to get any kind of viewership, to get your numbers up. The fact that did over 93 million views in under a day is insane. Right, and if WWE do not look at this figure and say, "Ooh, we've got something here," then they're being absolutely...
Well, the thing that you've got to remember, guys, as well, is how much revenue just does that bring in alone. Because don't forget, on them social medias, when you put clips and stuff like that, it generates money. And 90-odd million like that will generate a lot of money just for the clips. Never mind anything else.
About $300,000.
Yeah. You know, and that's just for clips. You know, it's just ridiculous.
It's insane. But I mean, for me personally, The Rock is one of the reasons I started watching WWE. I was a WCW kid when I grew up. I always was. That was my jam. I watched ECW with my brother as well. But once I got my eyes back, WCW had started to die, and WWE was the big game in town. And one of the main reasons I started watching that show was The Rock. His promo ability, the sheer captivation the man has with the audience, the fact that he manages to control a crowd, which we saw on Friday, better than any wrestler in the history of the business, is dance monkeys dance. I cannot wait for this. I am going to get my hopes up because I'm getting my hopes up about Mania now. I'm getting my hopes up that he's going to be there. This is something huge. This is a monumental thing. And we've also got to mention, it's Mania 40. Even if he doesn't have a match, this is a big deal with WrestleMania. This is the 39th anniversary of WrestleMania. This is a massive, massive deal. Austin will be there. The Rock will be there. Batista will probably be there. There are a certain number of guys that are
Hang on a minute. Sorry, hang on.
Hollywood star,
Did
mate.
you just say Austin,
Yeah.
The Rock,
Yeah.
and then Batista?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. Because I think Batista's going in the Hall of Fame next year.
You put him in the same...
No, but he's a
sentence?
Hollywood. Of course I put him in the same sentence. He's a Hollywood star that makes nearly as much money as Dwayne. The guy's a big deal these days. He was never the deal they were in the ring and never will be the deal they were in the ring. But as far as his social media presence, his presence in Hollywood, his presence in media in general, he's a very big name and they'll want to have him involved in 40.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, as I always say, lads, you know, I'm a little bit younger than yourselves. You know, I got into wrestling. Well, I was into wrestling when I was a little kid. But when I really started understanding it and really paying attention was round the time The Rock started with The Nation and Austin, you know, that kind of era anyway. But I feel like Austin was already well up there when I was really, when I was a teenager, you know, he was already on his way. Where The Rock, I felt like from The Nation onwards, I was kind of part of that journey from where he went from The Nation and he kind of was the mid-card guy and he was my guy then. And then to see him come up the way he did and stuff, you know, like that's why I feel like I've got that real connection with The Rock more than what I have with, you know, say Hogan or Stone Cold or whatnot, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, say, us with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
We saw the start of Bret's career. We watched his whole journey up until the Survivor Series, all the way through WCW, everything. It's the same type of thing. But we have to move on, gentlemen, from The Rock to, unfortunately, to another name that is currently in limbo in the world of professional wrestling. After he was terminated by Tony Khan this last week, CM Punk has recently done a bit of MMA commentary.
For Endeavour.
During this commentary, CM Punk decided to inform the world that for the next 2 months, his schedule is open, implying that after those next 2 months, which is roughly round about the 3-month period for a no-compete clause in professional wrestling, he will not have free time. His schedule will be booked up. And on top of this, Nick Khan did an interview recently in which Nick Khan, Andy, if you can get the quote up, that'd be really nice.
What has it got it here, pal?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So, asked if there was any chance Punk could return to the company. He left in 2014 on acrimonious circumstances. Nick Khan spoke for his respect for the decorated star. Listen, we only have respect for Phil. We appreciate his run here. We appreciate what he did and tried to do with the UFC. Not many people can actually get in there and do what he did.
To me, that means the door's open. Si, you are as big a Punk mark as I am. But you have been a fan of his since his pro wrestling guerrilla days, the same as me. We both share the same opinion on the termination by Tony Khan. Are you excited to hear this potential news for WWE return?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched him since I first saw him debut. I was live for TNA in 2003, 2005, something. I can't remember the year. Always been a fan. A lot of people are saying, oh, he'll never go back. He doesn't get on with Triple H. He's burnt too many bridges. I mean, Bret Hart wrestled Vince McMahon at WrestleMania after 10 years in exile or whatever it was. If it's good for business, and this is the difference between the companies, between what should have happened and didn't happen with Punk and the Elite in AEW. If it's good for business, it's going to happen. People will put the business first, bury the hatchet, and make money together. And is Punk going to do that? Is he going to perhaps debut in the Rumble, get a big Mania match?
Well,
will it be Cody? Will it be Seth?
Now then, I have a little bit of tidbit of information. His 3 months ends right around the time of Survivor Series. And where does Survivor Series herald from this year?
Is it Chicago?
Chicago. Now, I am under the impression that Triple H, like you just said, is a businessman first and does his personal things second. I believe that he is quite willing to bring Phil back and say, "Here's a mic, talk."
Yep.
Andy, you're a big CM Punk fan as well. Do you want to see him back? Would you be happy to see him back? If he does come back, what do you want him to do?
Yeah, I think for WWE, as we always say, and we've said it many, many times, I'll say it again, they're all about moments. And him popping out in front of the crowds in Chicago would create that moment that they like to have on the the clips and everything else they like to do. As for who I'd like to see him face, I wouldn't like to see him face anyone in Survivor Series. I'd like them just to come in and have a little bit of a microphone. And then if we're going to go down the Rock Roman route, then there's a lovely little story between him and Cody there.
Ooh.
The guy who left AEW and the guy who come to AEW.
There's an idea. Yeah, that works. That gels quite nicely. And Triple H is more than willing to blur reality to get things in. So I'm super excited for this. The fact that I heard these news about Punk is put a new chip on my shoulder of happiness. I was not impressed with the way the business was handled in AEW in any way, shape, or form. The fact that Jack Perry has not been fired is disgraceful. I'm sorry, but I'm of the opinion that if you are going to punish one party who is part of a situation, then you need to punish the other party who is part of that situation.
The one thing I said, and I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it, is Tony Khan's the one that's to blame for everything. Because Tony Khan should get his house in order. Because could you imagine CM Punk going back to WWE? Which, by the way, I think if he does go back there, he'll thrive. Because it's a professional atmosphere.
Yeah.
He knows his company protects him. You know, because could you imagine somebody going to the dirt sheets and they know who's gone there and saying all kinds of stuff, and then WWE wouldn't do nothing about it? WWE would fire them in a second, whoever it was. Instantly, because they will not put up with stuff like that because it takes away from everything that they're doing. Tony Khan has let them do what they want for far too long. And I'm not saying it's the elite or it's the elite's fault, because at the end of the day, you know, R. Ashton, for instance, if I let R. Ashton run around and he tweets all night, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same thing with them. If they've got
it comes down to the boss.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, there's got to be consequences and it's got to be set up properly. You know, Jack Perry's another one, should be sacked and all the rest of it. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, this whole thing, prevention is better than a cure. Always is. And, like, I'm not being funny, but if that was my company for liability purposes or whatever else, if he turned around and said, I'm using real glass, you're not, mate. You're not. Whether you want to or you don't, you are not. Because there's still a safer way of doing this thing that can be done and still looks good visually and everything else, and it can be done in a safe way where you can wrestle the next night. You are not using real glass, no matter whether you want to or you don't. It's not happening.
No,
like,
I completely agree.
Let me ask you this question. Yeah, sorry, this is a good one for you, mate, because I know you're a big ECW fan back in the day. The lack of blood in WWE, do you feel like it takes away from the product?
Yes and no. So the lack of blood does take away from the credibility. You know, less is more. So if you see someone busted open accidentally, then you're like, oh, wow, you know, someone's going to get fined. Referee's putting his gloves on. Shouldn't be like that. It should be presented as a credible sport, whatever the company is. Otherwise, how are we meant to suspend our disbelief and watch and enjoy? You know? And that's how it's different in movies, TV, entertainment. But everywhere else, you know, you watch, I don't know, you watch Breaking Bad and a guy gets blood all over his face. He's not done that the hard way. He's not bladed. That's effects, makeup, whatever for the camera. And doing it that way should be done more in WWE. Safely.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we've seen splatters of blood,
nowhere in wrestling nowadays. Let me finish, mate. Sorry. Nowhere in wrestling nowadays. 25 years ago in ECW was different. We didn't really know any better, right? But nowadays, there shouldn't be any blatant blade jobs. There shouldn't be any glass used. There shouldn't be anything done that can hurt the participants and their opponents. Because in every other form of entertainment, we don't see that. So it depends on the blood. There should be more in WWE, but it should be done safely.
Okay. And let me ask you this question, right? Just to go back again to liabilities and protecting your business and everything else, yeah? Why did WWE stop bleeding, say?
Jericho and Shawn Michaels, because they went PG.
It was to do with the sponsorships, wasn't it?
What's that?
Wasn't it to do with one of the sponsors or
No.
one of the advertisers saying they wouldn't do it if... No, go on then.
So it was, I believe, it was Eric Young, wasn't it?
Huh.
Had, oh no, sorry, not Eric Young. Oh God, McGuinness. So McGuinness was in WWE. He bled on a match that he was doing, and it turns out he had hepatitis C.
That wasn't McGuinness. That was Bob
No,
Orton
Trevor
Jr.
Classic. Yeah.
Bob Orton Jr. bleeding all over the Undertaker.
Bob Orton, wasn't it? Yeah, Bob
bleeding
Orton.
all over the Undertaker.
And that was why they stopped it, because of the hepatitis C, and they realised it was dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Now, AEW, they like to bleed a lot all the time, right? Now, I'm not saying anyone's got hep, and I'm not saying anything like this, right? But if I was working for AEW, yeah, and someone bleeded by me, and I contacted hepatitis C, I would be suing Tony Khan for everything I could grab out of him, mate.
Unsafe work environment.
Exactly. So when people say WWE got rid of blood because of all this and that, they didn't. They got rid of it because they are a responsible company who looked at it and said, okay, we can't do this anymore because of the fact of, look what the potential of could have happened here.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's just too much of a liability.
It makes sense. Can you imagine going and watching the new Avengers film and seeing, I don't know, Chris Evans do a blade job while the action pauses for a minute? It just, it's TV. You don't need to stop it completely because of the hepatitis breakout. What was that, 15, 20 years ago?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you do need to do it safely.
Well, the way I look at it now, right, especially with modern day technology, etc., like that, why can't you just turn around and put like a blister bag on the head or something like that, and then when the time comes, you know what I mean?
This is why it would have worked well in like cinematic matches and stuff like that. Use it when you can use trick photography and you can pause stuff and whatever.
Because who was it not long ago who had it where they had that thing in the mouth and it was foaming out the mouth? Who was it? I can't remember. It wasn't too long ago.
Oh, I remember what you mean.
Pastel or something, didn't he, in the mouth?
Was it Ziggler? Might have been Ziggler. That was a while ago now. But no, I mean, as far as blood in professional wrestling goes, I think it's part of the sport. I've always thought it was part of the sport. It was
Alexa Bliss.
Oh, there we go. Blonde, one way or the other.
Just like golf.
Yeah, blonde, just like golf. About the same height too. I believe that blood is an integral part of professional wrestling. It's been there since 1905. George Hackenschmidt and Jim Lundus over the first World Heavyweight Championship. They bled all over the place in that match. But I agree with Sai. We're at a point in professional wrestling and in television as a whole when it can be done safely. You don't need a guy sticking his head under the ring and gigging every 5 minutes. I mean, you do get the occasional person like Moxley who'll just hit him with a strong breeze and he'll start bleeding because of the amount of scar tissue on his head. But for the most part, accidental blood, I think, is the way to go. As much as that sounds strange. Brock is also famous for busting Randy Orton open hard way when Randy wasn't informed.
Yeah. So Brock busted himself open though, didn't he, not long ago?
Yes, the turnbuckle with the Cody Rhodes match, which is fine. Go on.
Something's just popped in my head. I'm going off topic here. Sorry, guys. But if Cody's tied up with a world title somehow, and we get Rock against Roman, right? What if CM Punk comes in as like the outside guy, who's he's come back home, but he's the outsider still. And what if Vince puts his boy Brock Lesnar against CM Punk at Mania? Because that's the match I want to see.
I'd be happy with that. I'd be very happy with that.
Anyway, sorry.
No, absolutely.
When you said Brock, it just
oh, it's absolutely fine. But I have a theory on the World Heavyweight title, which I will get to. Well, an idea more than a theory. Which is, if we are getting Rock Roman at Mania, that means Cody can't finish the story at Mania. It's not possible.
He can.
Not
can.
at Mania. Well, you can do it
You
night
can.
one, and then they can do it night
People
two.
are assuming the story was beating Roman. It wasn't. The story
No.
was winning the world title in WWE, which
No,
you can do the other one.
The story is winning the WWE Championship, not the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that Roman's going to have it.
Hang on.
Excuse me, boys. Can we just have a moment, please? We have royalty in the house.
Hello, King.
Hey, Jim.
How are you? Good to see you, Jimmy. Yeah, so basically, if we are getting Rock Roman at Mania, that prevents Cody Roman from happening at Mania. So Roman is currently missing the Royal Rumble. Well, there's nothing stopping his boss from turning around and saying, you're no longer missing the Royal Rumble. You're dropping the title at the Royal Rumble to Cody Rhodes. You then have Gunther, as Intercontinental Champion, win the Royal Rumble, which then has Gunther challenge Cody title for title at WrestleMania. Rock versus Roman main event of night 2. Cody versus Gunther main event of night 1. Cody has already finished the story. Now it is on to the next chapter. Gunther is crowned 2 months later as your new World Heavyweight, World Heavyweight Champion. And we're off to the races of Cody chasing Gunther to get his title back.
Or does Cody defend against Cena?
Ooh.
There's lots of options. It's going to be a fantastic Mania.
I mean, the one thing I'd say is I wouldn't have Cody defend at Mania. I'd have him win at Mania. So the story with Gunther there, I'd maybe do it the other way around, where Gunther wins the belt around November time, and then maybe it's the Rock that costs Roman it, and then we go on to Cody versus
Gunther.
Now he's broken the record. Gunther could do a Goldberg or an Ultimate Warrior and beat Seth.
Yeah.
And then just drop the IC belt, have a tournament for it. Gunther goes through, Cody wins. Yeah, that makes sense too. There's lots of possibilities, and they're all exciting.
Much so. Right, sticking with a bit of general topic, which you've just reminded me of, Si, we're going to move on. And we're going to move on.
Can I just go back to the Bloods for just 2 minutes? Very, very quickly, because I have got a really good point here. So, one thing I always say is, and what annoys me, especially in AEW, is they say that the Blood is, it gives it that believable bit.
Sense of realism, if you will.
Yeah, it gives that sense of realism. But then we'll see somebody do a triple backflip elbow flippy thing that would just not realistic whatsoever. So, and then we see Arn Anderson running around with his firing his fake gun into the air. So it's like, it can be used in the right way, but I don't think in professional wrestling, especially, we should be going on about blood beer, making it more realistic, unless we're going to make everything more realistic, because that's what annoys me, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, but as I'm saying, we are moving on, and we are moving on to a topic that Simon has just recently reminded me of, because this week the PWI 500 came out. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole list, boys, because we'll be here all night. I am, on the other hand, going to quickly run down the top 10. And I want your quick opinion on this, and whether you agree with the positioning or whether you think someone else should have been number one. There is one massive omission from the top 10, which I will get. Yes, which I will get to in a minute.
Shall we, me and Andy, just do it? Thumbs up if we agree, thumbs down if we don't. Yeah,
that works for me. Okay, number 10, ready, Cody Rhodes. Number 10, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes should be higher.
Andy,
say that again. Sorry, I was just reading.
Number 10.
I need to.
Number 10 in the PWI Top 500, Cody Rhodes. Do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, about right for the year.
Well, I'm agreeing with Si. I think he should be a bit higher.
He's top 5 in my book.
Yeah. Number 9, Josh Alexander.
Sorry, can I just say, if he wouldn't have had that time out between the injury as well, he might have been a bit higher, Si.
Yeah, probably.
True.
One for the adversity.
Josh Alexander, he's a top 10 wrestler. He's had a fantastic year. Shouldn't be above Cody, but
I'd agree with
more or less agree.
Considering he had a lot of time out injured as well. Number 8, Orange Cassidy. Andy?
No, shouldn't be there. I mean, do you know what? No, I'm gonna. Yeah, no, we should be further down.
Okay. Cassidy, I'd put top 20. He had a fantastic title reign, but which main eventers has he beaten? I can't name one.
No.
Should he be above Cody? No. Should he be above Josh Alexander? Probably not. Yeah.
Number 7, Kazuchika Okada. Now, I'm fine with this. I think it's fine. He always deserves to be in the top 10, but I feel he hasn't done enough this year to put him in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I think Kazuchika at number 7 is great. Who else have we got here? Number 6, Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Yeah.
No.
One comment in brackets is that I know he's been wrestling more this past few weeks, but we did go like 6 months with only one match.
And that's why I'm happy with him at 6.
Yeah, that's why I'm fine with him at 6.
I know PWI have had certain criteria before with part-timers, which technically he has been wrestling-wise. It brings open another debate, but 6, yeah, I think I would probably put him top 5.
Okay. Number 5, El Hijo del Vikingo.
Well deserved.
Agreed. Absolutely deserved.
We've had the pleasure, of watching him live twice in the same night.
Yeah,
and they were both 4-star plus matches. What a great year! He's had a breakthrough year, well deserved.
Well
deserved.
And
somebody's got an autographed picture behind him.
Yes, it does indeed.
Yeah.
It does indeed.
Great guy. Doesn't speak a word of English.
Both
but a
know,
great
he
guy.
was my superstar at WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah.
Agreed. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Number 4, Ring General Gunther.
It's deserved, and
Agreed.
I'm calling it now. Could very well be number 1 next year.
Agreed. Completely agreed. And the top 3, I was quite surprised by this, but at the same time, I kind of figured out why they did it. I'm going to give you all 3 in a run. Number 3, John Moxley. Number 2, Roman Reigns. And number 1, Seth Rollins. Now, I will let you say your piece and then I have a rant.
Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, I agree with. I do. Unless you can tell me any differently, I do agree. I think Seth's been amazing. And Roman has been brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Some of his matches, he had the one with Brock at SummerSlam, the whole Sami Zayn stuff and everything else. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Even at Money in the Bank, when he was, the way he plays the crowd and does everything, he was fantastic. He really was. Seth's being great. John Moxley. How can you have John Moxley over that guy?
Right, now I'm a big fan of John Moxley. Everybody knows this. But, no, hear me out. He's the modern day Terry Funk. That's his job. However, he doesn't deserve to be number 3 this year. Like, if this was last year, yes. Last year with the world title runs, everything he did for AEW, absolutely fine. Yeah. This year, he does not deserve to be in the top 3. Now for my little rant. There is one glaring omission.
Just before you start your rant, we are sorry, Lord Funk. He not know what he says.
Well, Terry's the one who gave him that nickname, so yeah, he does.
There's a glaring omission you were going to say, and it's Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio should clearly have been number 1, right? Don't speak over me. Don't cut me off now. I've got to get this out. It'll take me about 5 minutes. Dominic Mysterio should be number 1, right? Because firstly, he's had more heat than anybody else in the business, right? It's just phenomenal to watch him this week on Raw. Every time he raises that mic, drowned out with boos, right? He is the son of Rey Mysterio. I don't know if you guys knew this. Therefore, genetically, he's superior. The angles he's had this year, the matches he's had at the big shows, the match against Cody Rhodes, the match against Rey Mysterio. There are so many reasons. Judgment Day doesn't have a leader, but if it did, it would be Dom. There are so many reasons why Dominic Mysterio should have that number 1 spot. So, yeah, I agree with you, Nicky. He's obviously a glaring omission from the top 10.
Well, actually,
Cody Rhodes got a WrestleMania the main event for having his father. Why can't Dom?
Dominic was my second point, and Dominic's not even in the top 20, mate. It's ridiculous.
Wait, what?
He's not.
Yeah, Dom's not in the top 20, mate. Dom is not even in the top 20.
You winded me up.
Nope.
Who wrote this shit?
No.
Tell me who it was. I'm going to email them right now.
The greatest omission from the top 10 this year was one William Ospreay, who has been put down at number 17. Will Ospreay has had a better year than every wrestler on the planet. If you didn't know, he just beat Chris Jericho, Kazuchika Okada, and Kenny Omega within 2 weeks of each other. He has literally been the reason New Japan has stayed afloat since the pandemic. Without Will Ospreay, they'd be nowhere. He has had banger match after banger match after banger match in every single company he has stepped foot in. His United Empire, his faction, are now multi-company. They're in AEW, New Japan Strong, and an Australian federation. The fact that Will Ospreay is not in the top 10 completely omits the rest of this list, as far as I am concerned.
Just incidentally, you said Ospreay was 17.
17.
Right? I agree, that's way too low. But was he above or below Dom? You say Dom didn't make the top 20, so he's
Dom
above
didn't even make the top 20.
You see,
I will try
I
and
put
find
Dom
Dom.
just a notch above Will. Just, I'm not biased at all.
I will try and find Dom. But at the moment, I'm in the 50s and he's still not been listed.
Wow, that's so harsh.
Blake Christian is above Dominic Mysterio in the PWI 500.
What?
So is Eddie Kingston. Yeah, I'm in the hundreds now, and there's still no Dominic Mysterio.
I'm lost.
It's ridiculous, but just to get
Can
it
I
on,
give a little segue because it actually goes into what you're actually saying here. So Will Ospreay's had a great year, but he hasn't had a very good week. I don't know if you've actually seen.
No,
he's right, mate.
Right.
Yeah.
So Will Ospreay got a tattoo to commemorate All In.
yes, I know this.
He got the Roman numerals and he got the attendance 82,000, and then obviously now it's being released at
it was 71,300
72,265. Well, Will took to Twitter, bruv, I cannot believe I cannot make this fucking shit up. I'm currently in Japan, I've had no sleep, I'm tired. Laugh, haha, this is the worst day of my life. Do you know how hard it is for me to get a tattoo? My mum hates them, bruv. They announced it at 81,000 to everyone. They announced 81,000 people. I've got this thing on my arm for life.
Well, realistically, at least it's not as bad as Cody's neck tattoo.
What's wrong with Cody's neck tattoo?
It's bloody awful. I love the man, but there's a difference between wearing your brand and then wearing your brand. But either way,
I absolutely loved. I loved that tweet off Will Ospreay. It was brilliant.
Will's great. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, quickly to the other side of the fence for a couple of minutes. Jade Cargill.
Sorry, can we just all check on Russ? Russ, are you all right, love?
Russ, what is wrong with you? I don't know if this is supposed to be humour, sarcasm, or if you're being realistic, but if it's being realistic, I suggest you seek psychiatric help.
You need to go and talk to Frank, I think. Drugs are bad, remember.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the top 5 big guys.
No. No.
Maybe not. Yeah, I said maybe.
But this week, Jade Cargill returned to AEW for what is looking at it as one match.
Yeah.
Now, the rumor is that Jade is no longer going to be in AEW, and she is WWE bound. Now, personally, if this is true, I think what you do is you bring her into NXT and you have her beat Becky for that title on her first night. That's just me.
And she wins the Rumble, and she goes against Charlotte at Mania. It has to be Charlotte. Charlotte Jade is a money match.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree. That was moving on to my next question, which is, who do you think her biggest money matches would be?
Politics.
So,
Andy,
I think
monetization. Stop it.
There's an obvious slot for her. At the minute, you've got the new Hurt Business or Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, whatever you're calling them.
My brother agrees with you.
They're kind of going into business against quite a lot of stables, but one in particular has been Judgment Day. Judgment Day is 3 men and a woman. Bringing in Bianca Belair in that spot makes perfect sense to go against Rhea Ripley for Mania.
Agreed.
But I'm going to say right now off the bat, Jade and Lashley would be brilliant together, and I think Jade could just as easily take that spot. So it depends what they want to do with Bianca as to what they do with Jade, but we've got 2, maybe 3 potential great women's main events at Mania this year.
Well, a large part of the noise online is Jade versus Rhea. Like, everybody wants that match, and I can understand why, because it's Hoss versus Hoss yet again. It's a megastar versus someone who will be a megastar. For me, I think it's Jade. One, the best thing is she'll have been able to put a couple of extra zeros on that contract offer than WWE made her in the first place with what she's done in the last year. She's still not the best in ring, but I think sending her to WWE, having to have a run in NXT first, is the best thing for her because they'll teach her the WWE style. They'll do what they do best, which is hide the negatives and accentuate the positives. It's just, for me, go.
Like, what if you do that and you put her in NXT and she beats Becky for the belt straight away, like you say? She could then go through Bayley, right, on her way to facing Charlotte at Mania. Because I think that Rhea and Bianca is the other big match. So if you book Jade against Rhea, it's like Bianca Charlotte. We've had it so many times.
Yeah.
I think it works better the other way.
I agree.
But yeah, I think for the potential, this Mania, not only have we got like half a dozen legitimate main eventers scrambling for spots in the men's division, we've got the same in the women's.
All right, well, I've got a quick question for you, lads, as we're on the subject of WrestleMania, and this is a bit of a tricky one. Who do you think the champions are going to be at WrestleMania 40?
Okay, Rhea Ripley.
Okay.
Agreed.
SmackDown one's probably a bit harder. If she comes back, it might be the first black woman to main event WrestleMania. She may have it.
Could be Ronda.
Could be Becky. Could be Charlotte. There's a lot. It's like, you know, these matches that you're talking about, which is great. But as I said, there's so many potentials because we haven't mentioned Becky Lynch against anyone at WrestleMania. We haven't mentioned Bayley being at WrestleMania. There's so much going on, and for Jay's better than that quarter hour for her, really, isn't it?
Oh,
if I was here, aesthetically, the way she looks and everything else, as like the brand that she could build, she's just WWE made.
Yes, I think she is WWE bound for her entire career. She just took a pit stop in AEW while she could refuel.
And she's a natural Rumble winner as well. I think it's going to be Rhea and Charlotte. Bouncing over to the men, I think by Mania, Dom will have the US belt and possibly defend it against LA Knight. I think the IC belt, if it doesn't go to Gable, there's going to be a tournament or something, and you've got so many guys.
Ciampa.
Like Gable, Ciampa. There's quite a few guys on the cusp just coming up and through. World titles.
Dirty Dom could get that one as well. They could go down that route to the other side.
I think he'll be the US champ going into Mania, Dom. I really do. World titles. Yeah, I mean, if Roman drops it before, because Roman Rock doesn't need the belt. We've talked about this over the years a few times, haven't we? I think you could have potentially Gunther going in as champion defending against Cody. And if Seth is fit, could he defend his against Punk maybe? Or
oh, that'd be nice. Especially after he called Punk a cancer.
Yeah. Do you not feel like LA Knight could be up there for them belts at this point?
I believe LA Knight will be US champion by WrestleMania.
Yes. Yeah. You look at Steve Austin, right? It took him from King of the Ring 96 to right through to Mania 98. So it was like 22 months from when he was super over until he won the belt. And I think we're going to see a similar timeline when LA Knight signs his new deal. So this Mania is kind of what Steve did the year before. He fought for the IC belt. This Mania, I think LA Knight wins that mid-card belt. And then if he proves himself over the following year, kind of like what Cody is doing at the minute, he'll win the world title the year after.
Yeah. Does anyone feel Bobby Lashley?
I think Bobby. I think Bobby's the guy to beat. Which actually, we'll get onto this now, lads. Gunther has already broken the reign. Right, that was the plan of WWE, as far as we know. They wanted that record done. They wanted Gunther to have the new record. So now the question is asked: who beats Gunther? And I think, as Andy's just mentioned him, it's Bobby. The match has never happened. Bobby Lashley can believably beat Gunther. That's the thing. Bobby can believably beat Gunther.
regardless of whether you're going to put the strap on Gunther and have him defend it at Mania, or whether you're going to have Gunther win the Rumble and challenge at Mania, I think you protect the guy. I think if he loses it, it's in a triple threat, which we could have coming up with Chad, and remind me who the third guy was.
Lashley.
Was it Chad and Lashley? Yeah,
I think so.
So if Chad beats Lashley, or if Lashley beats Chad, you protect Gunther, but he drops the belt. Or he wins the world title and surrenders the IC belt. You keep him strong, stepping up to that main event level.
You do, but WWE have also got a way of making you lose on your way up to the top. They done it to Lashley when he won the title, didn't he? Do you remember?
US title. You got beat for the US title, floundered for a month, moved on to the world heavyweight. Right, and that's the thing. Gunther has been presented so well, damn near perfectly as a professional wrestler, that I think it's very hard to injure him in a loss. Like, if he loses the IC title, that's fine, because he can then turn around and be like, well, I've done that. I'm done with that division. I've conquered that division. Yes, I lost the title. That was bound to happen eventually. Now it's time to move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I think you Sai's probably right. I think triple threat's probably the way to go to keep that. You know what I mean?
I think that could be coming up.
Well, if it
The
is,
other thing as well is, I think, just to go back to Sai's point before about like this main event stuff that we're on about and that. Sorry, my camera's just popped off. I do apologise. The other thing is, like, you know, we haven't even mentioned Drew McIntyre or Sheamus or there's so many, isn't there, of like these people?
Yeah.
It's like
that's the
this
thing.
card's going to be unbelievable.
There's an argument. There's an argument to be made that Sheamus has to be the one to beat Gunther. Realistically, if you look at Gunther's run, Sheamus's match was the first banger of Gunther's IC title reign.
Okay.
He's had plenty of bangers since, but Gunther and Sheamus started that run of amazing matches. Now, the other arguments to be made, they're not even on the main roster yet, is Tyler Bate and Ilya Dragunov. I mean, now Bate, just a little fact for you here, Tyler Bate has been on the WWE roster since he was 19 years old. He's now 26. Right? That is 7 years of wasted talent. They have done nothing with him.
Disagree. And the reason I disagree, and I love Tyler Bate, he's a great wrestler. But we all remember when he first came in the Royal Rumble like 5 years ago, he did a promo before, and stepping up to the main roster, he was more nervous than Billy Gunn has ever been in his life, and it cost him. And it's taken him a couple of years to get the confidence back so that he's talking. He's exactly where he needs to be now. And when he comes up, he'll be ready this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But Dragunov.
Yeah. And
Now,
another thing as well is we haven't mentioned Randy Orton either. There's so many talents that are just...
Well, I didn't want to mention Randy because there's still no guarantee Randy will be back. No back, pun intended. I really want to see Randy Orton back in the business, and I agree with JBL. You build a WWE superstar from the ground up, he looks like Randy Orton.
Yeah.
The guy is...
I can tell you one thing, though, is, you know, everybody always slates Mania being 2 nights. Well, I tell you what, 40 is going to need to be 2 nights.
Agreed.
Because otherwise there's so many talents and everything else that's going to miss out.
Agreed. Right, lads. But that's the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are but 3 nerds, desperate for a good show, and our opinion means nothing without yours in the comments below. So, you disagree with us, you agree with us, you want to argue with us, at us on Twitter. Our address, well, mine and Si's are right there. Andy keeps his covert because he's a very important man.
Pro Wrestling.
There you go. Andy Pro Wrestling. All right, you need to start putting it up on the screen, man, so people know.
I know.
But that's it for the week. I've been Nick the Geek. He's been Andy. He's been Si. And we'll see you next week.